Okay, so today we are going to be talking about Midnight Sun, the latest book that Stephanie Meyer is about to release, coming out on the 4th of August 2020. Now, I want you all to know a couple of things before I go into this. First of all, I want you to know that I'm going to be giving you a very unpopular opinion in this video. And secondly, I want you to know that I'm kind of viewing this video as an open forum. You guys can comment below and let me know what you think. If you disagree with me, that's totally fine. And if you agree with me, that's cool too. So either way, let the comments flow in the comment section below. Comment below and let me know, as I always say, because this is not going to be your standard Stephanie Meyer's releasing a new book and yay video, but more Stephanie Meyer's releasing a new book and ... why video. Now, I used to love this series back in the day, so I read all 4 books. I read Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn, and I absolutely loved each and every one of them. I think for the time that they were released, it was just a fantastic quadrilogy, 4 books. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, so much so that I found myself envisioning many moments with Edward. I'm sorry, but I did. So I would have moments where I used to, back in the day when I was reading this series, when it first came out, I was catching the train everywhere to school and whatnot. And I would, as the train would quickly be rushing past trees, and this is before the films came out, I was imagining Edward jumping from tree to tree to follow the train and other things as well. I lived in this world as much as I possibly could, and I had a lot of fun with it. I admittedly have not read any of the Twilight books for a very long time, but as I said, when I was reading them when they were coming out, I was very much invested in that world. So when I found out that Stephanie Meyer is releasing another Twilight book, I got incredibly excited. And then I found out that the book is called Midnight Sun, and I got even more excited. And then I read the description for Midnight Sun, and while everyone else was going, yay, I was going, why? So let me discuss with you my thoughts on this upcoming book and why I just don't appreciate that this is the book that's coming out. Again, it's an unpopular opinion, and please feel free to leave your thoughts in the space below. I am open to all of your judgments and criticisms and arguments as to why this is going to be a fabulous book. I'm open to all that. I am. I'm just giving my opinion, and there aren't a lot of people out there at all who seem to be agreeing with me, although I will give a shout out to Emily Hayes, who I was watching her a little bit earlier on, and she seems to be on the same wavelength as I am with this, which I'm really happy that she is. But she still intends on buying the book when it comes out, but I don't think I am, unless I hear things after it's been released that make me want to read the book, but right now I have no intention of reading it. So let's first of all discuss the Twilight journey, shall we? So, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn, 4 books released one after the other that explore the lives of Bella Swan and Edward, and I'm not going to... Well, I don't want to say too many spoilers in case you haven't read them, but then what's the point of this video, because we're talking about another book that she's released in this world. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about it. So Edward Cullen, for those of you who have never read Twilight, which is totally fine if you haven't, for those of you who haven't read Twilight, Edward Cullen and his entire family are vampires. They are their sparkly type of vampires, which is very different to what we had seen prior to Stephanie Meyer's books being released and what we have seen post Stephanie Meyer's books being released. I mean, how many vampires do you know in any world outside of Stephanie Meyer's where if a vampire steps in the sun, they sparkle like a diamond rather than being obliterated by the sun? But that's fine. For the time that it was released, as I said, it was a good series and people loved it, and I was one of them. So obviously the series goes on following human Bella vampire Edward, they fall in love, and Bella ends up having a child, Renesmee, and she ultimately becomes a vampire herself. Now, I know this is a lot of spoilers, but I just wanted to say that and nothing else. Then, apparently, and I didn't know this because I didn't follow Stephanie Meyer that closely, after I finished reading all of the Twilight books, I did love reading about vampires, so I went on to Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead, which I'm currently rereading, and I do love that series, but I kind of stepped away from Stephanie Meyer after I finished reading the quadrilogy. Then apparently, Stephanie Meyer went on to release another book to celebrate one of the anniversaries of the series. This book is called Life and Death, and basically it's a retelling of the very first Twilight book. However, it is Edward and Bella's character being gender swapped. So now, suddenly, the vampire in this retelling is female, while the human in this retelling is a male. Now, I don't have any problems with this, and quite frankly, I want it known that anyone that writes any book at all, be it an original book, be it fan fiction, whatever it is, I will always celebrate any book that's being written, because it takes a lot to write a book. As I know myself, I've written a few books and publish them out to websites, and it's not easy to do. So I appreciate anyone taking the time to creatively write a book. Hey, I more prioritize and tend to lean towards fictional works than non-fiction, but even with non-fictional books, I appreciate anyone who takes the time to write a story, no matter what that story is. So I'm not saying that I'm upset with Stephanie Meyer for releasing Life and Death. But I think what upset me about that is that it's a retelling. I think what might have been a better idea would have been if Stephanie Meyer had written a completely different book about vampires, kept it in the same world, completely different book with these two new characters where the vampire just so happened to be female and the human was male. Am I upset with the fact that she's swapping the genders? No, I'm upset with the fact that she's retelling the story. And I want you to keep that in mind, because that is my major argument with Midnight Sun. Fast forward to May 2020, when on Stephanie Meyer's website she had, from the research I've done, because I didn't know this till now, but from the research I've done, Stephanie Meyer had a countdown clock on her website, and everyone was getting really excited to see what she's going to release. Is she going to release another book in the Host series? Now, I had the first Host book, but I never read it and I gave it away, so I can't really comment on the Host. But I understand that a lot of the Host fans have been waiting for the next book in the series to come out for a very long time, and the Host exclusive fans might have been a bit disappointed by the fact that this is a Twilight series book and not the Host series book. But I'm not commenting on that. I'm commenting on the actual book itself. What Stephanie Meyer did update once the countdown timer had finished is that she is going to be releasing a book called Midnight Sun. Now, this got me incredibly excited when that was all I knew. So when I knew Stephanie Meyer's going to release a book, it's called Midnight Sun, and it's to do with the Twilight Saga, I thought, oh my god, Stephanie Meyer is releasing the 5th book in the Twilight series. She's releasing the next book after Breaking Dawn, and she's calling it Midnight Sun. But nay, sir. Instead, Stephanie Meyer has chosen to release a book. Let's just sort this out, guys. She's chosen to release a book that is the exact same story as book 1, as Twilight. It's just now it's going to be told from the perspective of Edward rather than Bella. Now, before you all jump in and start arguing, but Mr. Francy, I will say this. If you are a Twilight fanatic and you want to collect everything to do with Twilight, I understand why this book would be of value to you, because anything to do with that world is going to be something that you covet, and I understand that. But from the perspective of a reader such as myself, one thing that's really annoying me about Stephanie Meyer, and it seems to be a pattern with the last two books she's released in this world, is that they're both retellings of the first book. And I don't quite understand why she thinks this is a good idea. Again, I'm going to say this for the last time, but again, if you disagree, please do sound off in the comments below, and I'm open to anyone arguing this with me. It's just I want to give you my own perspective. I loved this series, as I've already said. So for me, I was so excited that what I assumed, and you never assume, and you guys know why, I'm sure, but why I assumed that this is the 5th book in the series. And so I actually started thinking ahead and mapping out my June TBR, thinking I'll read through the first 4 books again in June, and then maybe in July I can read Midnight Sun and have that as, the 5th book in the series. It's going to be so amazing, but let's reread through the first 4 first so that I can get myself reacquainted with the world once again. But nay, sir, she is again writing a retelling of the very first book, and I have many issues with this. First of all, for such a critically acclaimed writer who wrote not only such a magnificent series, but one that is so beloved, I don't understand why her thought is for Life and Death, and also for this book, Midnight Sun, why she's thinking, oh, I know what to do. I'll just rewrite the first book twice. Once with the main characters being gender swapped, and once just from a different perspective. I don't understand why this is seen as a really good thing. Now, if it were a series that was seemingly complete, I understand. But Twilight ended in a way that it could certainly keep going. Who out there does not want to read the 5th book and explore Renee's May growing up and how she experiences everything? Or who out there doesn't want to see in the 5th book that now Bella, as a vampire, has to go to high school like Edward did and experience high school as a vampire? This would be a lot of fun. It would continue on this series and we would get more information. But instead, somewhere along the way for Stephanie Meyer, I don't know what went through her head, and so I'm not going to try and make judgments, but it seems to me that she's thought, okay, 4 books, I can't do any better than this. Maybe it's not the right time and place. Maybe, her readers have grown up and they don't want to read anymore about this world, but it's just not going to work continuing on, so I'm just going to keep writing the first book in different ways. And it's one thing for her to release the gender-bending story of Life and Death, because I understand from a social, political standpoint why she did that. It does make sense, and I appreciate why she wanted to do that. But again, she could have started a completely new series, and then we would get another series going from her, and this could have been the second book in that series about the human boy and the vampire girl. I think that would be much more interesting than rereading the same book that, if you love Twilight as much as me, you probably read the book so many times already that you're going to reread again. Do you see what I mean? I don't get it. I don't know. So one of my most favorite series of all time is Harry Potter. And I think Harry Potter had just as much love as Twilight, if not more. Yep, come at me with pitchforks if you're a Twilight fan and you disagree. But I do feel that Harry Potter might have had slightly more going for it than Twilight did. Not to say Twilight didn't have a lot going for it, but I just feel Harry Potter had more going for it. So Harry Potter, the series, had 7 books. And I'm just going to spoil the characters here. Characters here in case you haven't read the books. And if you haven't, that's totally fine. I do recommend them. They're amazing. But there are 3 main character, well, there's a main character and two supporting characters in the very first book, and their names are obviously the titular character who's on the title, Harry Potter, and Harry Potter has his two friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. The author of this series is J.K. Rowling. It would be like J.K. Rowling now saying, guess what, everyone? I'm going to re-release the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, but I'm going to release it from the perspective of Hermione Granger. Now, while I would have no issue with this and I would want to get the book because of how much I love Harry Potter. So again, to Twilight fanatics, I get why you want this book. But if you're someone who was intrigued in the series as a whole and not a fanatic, I feel it's a different story. But if you're a fanatic of anything, you want to get anything and everything you can get your hands on to do with that. So if you're a fanatic, I excuse you, I get why you want this. I'm just talking to those who aren't fanatics but love the series. So, if she were to release this book, I don't understand why people would be so incredibly excited about it. But if she was to release an 8th book to continue on the story of Harry, Ron, and Hermione post book 7, there would be so much more excitement about it because it would be, despite the fact that there is a different perspective being told for the first book, in this book, book 8, it would be a brand new book. Don't get me started on The Cursed Child. Let's not even go there. It's not a book, it's a script that was turned into a book. Like, it's not a novel, it's a script. So we won't even go there. There's so many issues with that I'm not even going to start. But if she were to release a book for book 8, I'm sure everyone will be much more excited about that. So why is Stephanie Meyer not doing this? Why is Midnight Sun what I originally thought it was going to be? Why is it not the 5th book in the series? It just doesn't make any sense. Yes, there has been a long time between book 4 being released and, if this were book 5 being released. But still, wouldn't you be, I'm sorry, maybe this is just me, but wouldn't you be so much more excited to read the 5th book in the series and to learn new information about Renesmee, about the Cullens, about the Volturi? I think that's what they're called. Forgive me, it's been a long time. I just don't get it at all. And hopefully you guys can explain to me in the comments below why the retelling of Twilight from Edward's perspective is so much more exciting than continuing on the series. And had she continued on the series and not written The Short Second Life of Britannia, which apparently was a book that told the story of a newborn vampire who appeared in Eclipse. I didn't know about that one at all. But had she not written that and instead written book 5, not written Life and Death and instead written book 6, and then not written Midnight Sun and instead written book 7, how much more exciting would that be? 7 books in the Twilight series. Amazing. Let's keep the story going. I see no reason why this series can't keep going. So that's my opinion. My opinion is yay. Well done, Stephanie Meyer, for releasing another book. And really, that's my only yay, that she released another one. Well done. It's never easy to write a book, and I know she went through a lot, and I didn't get into that in this video because it's not relevant to the point I'm making. But please know, Stephanie Meyer fans, that I do appreciate she went through a lot writing this book. And yeah, I've learnt of the controversy to do with that and the spoiler stuff that was put out there, and I feel horrible for her that happened. But that's not my point, so that's why I didn't include it in the video. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. So, and honestly, if the majority of you end up saying, look, Mr. Francy, we get where you're coming from, but we're excited because we'd like to just see Edward's perspective, I'm fine with that. I have no issue with that because it is a different perspective. But I guess the question that I want to ask is more of a would you rather than are you willing to settle? So, because that's what I feel like it would be. Granted, it might be interesting to read Edward's side of things, but I feel that now's not the time to be doing that. That's just my opinion. I feel like book 5 would be much better than this. So, comment below and let me know what you would rather. Midnight Sun, with what she is doing with Midnight Sun, retelling the exact same story of book 1, just from the perspective of Edward rather than Bella, or book 5, continuing on in the going to say Vampire Academy, or book 5, continuing on in the Twilight Saga series. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is open for debate, so sound off and be honest, and let's have a good chat about this. At the end of the day, once again, I want you to know that I do not at all begrudge Stephenie Meyer for writing another book. I think it's wonderful that she has. It's been a long time. What I'm kind of begrudging her a little bit for is that she's not really coming up with anything new. This is the same story, it's just told by a different narrator. Now, if I'm wrong about this, and if this book contains a ton of information that we don't know because it's told from Edward's perspective, then I will come back, recant what I've said, and I will read this book. But I don't think that's what this is. Maybe the first chapter or two before Edward meets Bella is going to be stuff we don't know, but otherwise, I'm suspecting it's going to be the exact same thing, just with Edward explaining how much he loves Bella and that he doesn't like that he can't read her mind, but he's falling in love with her. I think it's going to be the exact same story told by a different narrator, and so I don't feel it's going to add too many new things to make it a worthwhile read. Again, I'm going to leave this video by once again restating the fact that I don't begrudge Stephenie Meyer for writing a book. I think it's wonderful. Well done. Bless her for everything she's had to go through to get this book out there, because it has been a tough journey, and I understand that. I just think it would have been more worthwhile to focus on book 5 in the series and say, guess what? We're continuing the series, because there is so much more that she can talk about with this series that I think would have us, so many more fans of this series who aren't fanatics, who I don't begrudge, but I've explained my side of that already, who aren't fanatics, loving the idea of this book that's coming out more than a book that's been told at least twice already, just done in different ways, but told the crux of the story, the bones of the story, exactly the same for a third time. So that's my thoughts on that. So comment below and let me know what you think. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, and I'll see you again very soon. Mwah. Happy reading. Bye.